Good Friday morning, and thank you for joining us here on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Jason Hackett. Let's get right to your headlines. A man is waking up in jail and facing a long list of charges this morning for allegedly carjacking someone and leading Minneapolis police on a chase. That chase ended in a crash that killed two innocent women and injured a child. This is a map of where that crash happened at the intersection of Penn Avenue and Olson Memorial Highway. Audrey Russo's in Minneapolis tracking the other crimes that allegedly happened before the deadly crash.
It's a bit of a chore to summarize exactly what the charges could reflect from this case. Now, police say that this whole ordeal left two women dead, one child injured, one person with their car stolen, one person who almost had their car stolen, one dog euthanized, two other dogs injured, plus reckless driving and gunshots fired. In the last 12 hours, Minneapolis police identified the two women who were killed when the 45-year-old suspect plowed into their car on Highway 55. Marissa Casebolt and Liberty Borg, both 25, died on scene. A young boy also was in that car. He was hurt, but he's expected to survive. Earlier in the day, police say the suspect crashed his car and then twice tried to steal someone else's vehicle. He was successful on that second attempt. The police chief justified chasing the suspect because he reportedly fired a gun and prompted multiple 911 calls with his reckless driving.
This person clearly endangered hundreds of people's lives in our city in such a short period of time. So we limit our pursuits only to those cases where we believe an immediate apprehension is necessary to protect the community from a violent criminal.
Now, police say the suspect had three dogs in his initial car. They say that he then went back to retrieve those dogs. This was after the carjacking, but before the crash that killed Marissa and Liberty. One of those dogs was euthanized, the other two were injured, and the suspect himself was sent to the hospital. Back to you.
Audrey, thank you. This morning, we're hearing from the mother of Vivian St. Clair, a child hurt in the Annunciation shooting. Vivian's mother shared details about what happened to her daughter, who is a third grader at Annunciation. Here's some of what she had to say.
After several minutes of chaos and hiding under the pew, she followed her teacher to safety at the school. It was there that her friend said to her, "Vivi, are you okay? You have a hole in your back." After being hospitalized at HCMC, I got to take her home. I got to take my child home after this horrific massacre, but the Moiskis didn't, and the Merkles didn't. We all dropped our kids off that morning, but we didn't all get to take our kids home. And that level of heartbreak is unfathomable.
Powerful stuff there. We also received an update from the family of another Annunciation shooting victim. They say Lydia Kaiser sustained a traumatic brain injury, underwent brain surgery to remove bullet fragments, and is making remarkable recovery in her progress. Now, right now, the family of a young woman killed in a shooting 4 months ago in Robbinsdale is demanding answers in her case. The family of Amari Alawanle held a vigil and balloon release in her honor at Sanborn Park yesterday. This is the same park that she was shot on the evening of May 4th as she was hanging out with friends. She was shot in the head and passed away 1 week later. So far, no one has been arrested. Her family gathered with loved ones as well as law enforcement and lawmakers at the park to continue fighting for justice.
You are with someone every single day of your life, and then in an instance, like, your life just completely changes.
And they're gone forever.
The Robbinsdale police captain tells us they have two detectives assigned to her case, but they need the public's help. He says investigators believe there are people who were there that day who likely have relevant information and hope they will come forward. We have new details this morning on a former Hudson Elementary School teacher accused of kissing one of her fifth grade students. In the last 24 hours, new charges had been added for sexually assaulting two Minnesota teenagers. Charges say Abigail Faust was a nanny for one boy's family and met the other through him. According to documents, both boys told police it started when they were 15, exchanging explicit photos that then escalated into regular sexual contact. Court documents say she continued to talk to the first boy even after she was charged last month. Faust is now in jail, facing more than a dozen new charges in both Wisconsin and Minnesota. She resigned from her teaching job last year after the school says she failed to report inappropriate contact between another teacher and student. As this year's school year gets underway, many school districts are expanding or refining their rules around cell phones. A law required every Minnesota school to have a policy by this year, and some principals say they're already seeing positive change. Lauren Lemanchek has details.
At Mounds View High School, Principal Rob Reitz knew something needed to change.
I was seeing phones as a disruption to learning.
And students saw it too.
You're not very in tune with what's going on outside of your phone because you're still stuck on your phone as you're walking to class, into class, and stuff like that.
So last year, they adopted a policy, no cell phones in the classroom. And a year later, Reitz says it's worked.
We were very happy with how students responded, and in fact, they appeared to like our plan as well.
Failed courses, down 74% for ninth graders, and a lot fewer fights.
We knew immediately that phones were the reason that these conflicts were escalating to becoming physical. And when we eliminated the ability for conflict to be escalated during classes, we saw a significant reduction.
Minnesota law required every school district to have a cell phone policy by March 2025. Now, some are even expanding their initial policies. Starting this year, Stillwater Schools is going phone-free. Students either leave the devices at home or turn them in at the start of the day. Not everyone's going that far, but Reitz says principals like him are keeping a close eye on what's working.
Have you talked to any principal who said, we need more cell phones in schools?
Not a single one.
Well, we have a crazy story to tell you about this morning. A Chanhassen family is being left to pay for the damages after a city water main break dumped 5 feet of water and mud in their basement. This break happened the morning of August 9th and has kicked Allison and Dan Kelly out of their home for nearly a month. The company is in the process of removing everything, including the drywall from the basement. However, the Kellys' insurance company or the city of Chanhassen will not pay for any of the damage. The city says they were not negligent and had no prior knowledge of any defect in the water line, and the Kellys' home insurance policy does not cover surface water runoff.
You have insurance. You pay a lot of money every year thinking that your home is going to be covered in one way or another. And there's nothing there. They find reasons not to help you.
In a statement to KARE 11, the city of Chanhassen said in part, quote, under state law, cities are only responsible for damages when negligence can be shown. And in this case, the League of Minnesota Cities Insurance Trust investigation found that standard was not met. A showdown over public health on Capitol Hill as lawmakers on both sides of the aisle grilled President Trump's health secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., over controversial moves to overhaul vaccine guidelines and fire the head of the Centers for Disease Control. Secretary Kennedy adamant that changes are needed. NBC's Alice Barr has the latest from Washington on an explosive day of testimony.
Hi there. Secretary Kennedy took heat from all sides, with senators accusing him of disregarding science, endangering Americans' health, and eroding trust in medical care. The secretary insists changes are needed after what he called serious mistakes during the pandemic.
And you won't answer that question.
I answered it.
Fiery moments on Capitol Hill.
You're so wrong on your facts.
You're interrupting me, and sir, you're a charlatan.
As Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. faced a flood of questions from senators in both parties about controversial moves at the nation's top public health agencies, especially on vaccines.
You are a hazard to the health of the American people.
Republican Bill Cassidy, himself a physician, pointing to new restrictions on COVID vaccine approvals for only older and high-risk Americans. Pharmacies now requiring prescriptions in many states or not offering the shots at all.
I would say effectively we're denying people vaccine.
The secretary, a longtime vaccine skeptic, defending his policy moves, and the firing of Centers for Disease Control Director Dr. Susan Menares after only a month on the job.
And it looks like she didn't bend the knee, so you fired her.
We are the sickest country in the world. That's why we have to fire people at CDC. They did not do their job.
He also replaced members of a key vaccine advisory committee with vaccine skeptics and canceled some mRNA vaccine contracts. Another Republican physician on the committee also voicing concerns.
Americans don't know who to rely on.
Secretary Kennedy adamant the CDC made critical mistakes during the pandemic.
And its disastrous and nonsensical policies destroyed small businesses, violated civil liberties.
Though he could not answer how many Americans died from COVID.
You're the Secretary of Health and Human Services.
The nation's health secretary under fire, still getting the critical backing of President Trump. President Trump said he did not have a chance to watch the hearing, but called Secretary Kennedy a good person and said he likes that he has different ideas. Two sources tell NBC News the president still has confidence in Kennedy to stay on the job. In Washington, I'm Alice Barr. Back to you.
Stick with us. More news and weather coming up after the break.